Thank you, Ryan. That was a great introduction, and it's really good to be here with these incredible women. And as Ryan said, this was originally...
Hey, Jessica. So I think you just need to unmute yourself there. There you go.
Thank you, Ryan. I'll just start again if I was muted there. Thank you, Ryan, for that introduction. It's really great to be here with these incredible leaders within the short-term rental industry. And this panel was originally scheduled for the Lisbon VRMA conference, which for reasons, that I don't really need to explain, was cancelled. And in the 3-4 months since then, so much has changed. So what we were probably going to talk about in Lisbon, some of it will be the same, but a lot of it will be different. Not only has the industry changed, but also, many parts of society have changed as well. The working from home, the blending between home life, business, all sorts of things. Priorities have changed. And, it's with great pleasure that I have these ladies here to talk to. And firstly, I'm going to ask you all to introduce yourselves. Just tell us a little bit about your company, where you're located, and where you sit within the ecosystem. And Susan, I'm going to ask you to start.
Thank you. My company is Commendable Rentals. I am mostly located in France, physically. My properties are located around France, Italy, a few scattered in Austria and Switzerland, and generally places that I like. That also includes South Africa. I am also on the board of VRMA, and I'm happy to serve there.
Great. Thank you, Susan. And Filipa, what about you?
Hi, thank you. I'm Filipa. I manage a small vacation rental company in Portugal, specific in Lisbon, where the VRMA was supposed to be. Most of my properties are urban in Lisbon downtown area, but fortunately for me, Lisbon is close to the sea, so I also have some beach rentals.
Thank you. And Emily, what about you?
Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm the founder of Peace of Mind. And we are an end-to-end property management company. We are based in Chelsea and London, and we manage about 250 properties, sort of high-end luxury properties, in central London and West London. And we also have a small collection of properties nationally over the UK, and also some properties abroad, but mostly in London.
Thanks, Emily. And Vanessa.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm Vanessa, co-founder and marketing director of Rentals United. We are a channel manager. We distribute 160,000 rentals worldwide. And I'm based in Barcelona, where we have or had an office with 110 plus people. And yeah, that's me.
Thank you. And Noelia, what about you?
Hi, Noelia Novella here, co-founder and CEO of Doull, the housekeeping platform for short-term rentals. For the last 5 years, our mission has been to implement professional companies and processes for disinfection and cleanliness in the short-term rentals. Right now, we have certified cleaning services in more than 100 cities in the States, UK, Spain, Ireland, Dominican Republic, and Portugal, where we have the headquarters, although right now I'm in Madrid, in Spain.
Thank you. And Vered?
Hi, I'm Vered from Guesty. Where I'm president and COO. Guesty is a software platform for short-term property management, providing end-to-end solutions from syncing your bookings, your calendars, managing your tasks, automating a lot of guest communications, and so on and so forth. We also have a marketplace of services, and some of the members of this panels are actually providers on our marketplace. So we collaborate, I say, with most of the ecosystem around short-term rental space.
Great, thank you. And Tammi.
Hello, my name is Tammi. I work for Properly. I also manage a couple of rentals, and Properly is a quality management platform. So we've been in the industry, we're coming on 6 years now. And we help anyone from hosts to large property managers, and now going into listing platforms and tourism associations, manage the cleaning and any other kind of implementing of any other kind of protocols for their cleaning teams, and providing transparency and peace of mind to guests.
Great, thank you.
And we're global, and I'm mostly based on the West Coast in the US.
Yes, it's early for you. You've got up early for us. So thank you. You know, you're a mix of property managers and suppliers, vendors. The first question I'm going to ask is for the property managers. And the last 3 months have been especially difficult for you. You know, it is very difficult to operate with no guests or very few guests. And could you tell, and I'm going to start with you, Emily, you know, what have the last 3 months been like? And how are things now, you know, as travel is starting to open up, or at least domestic, you know, a little bit of international, but, you know, how are things for you now? And Emily, would you like to start?
Yeah, so as you say, the last 3 months have been very challenging, particularly being the run up to the summer and the most kind of optimal months of the year. In terms of where Air Peace of Mind has been, I'd say that one of the advantages is we don't have investment, we don't have debt, so we've been quite nimble and flexible in the way we've approached it. And there were a number of guests of ours who actually had to stay in properties, and our average length of stay grew from 7 to 21 nights. So that was a real positive out of obviously a pretty, you know, challenging situation. But yeah, we've been able to kind of look at our processes, systems, a lot of back-end software, and in terms of sort of scaling back and being pretty patient, because of the way in which we can approach it, being kind of self-funded, if you like. Our owners have been incredible, and been really patient and just really aware that, you know, it's not a UK thing, it's not a London thing, it's a global thing, and the impact is huge. In terms of where we are now, things are slowly starting to pick up, as you say. I think more so in the domestic market, but we are seeing bookings now, particularly last minute bookings. And so I see that it's hopefully going to be positive from now on.
Great, thank you. And Susan, what about you? How has the last 3 months been?
I'm unmuted now. I think if I'd known how long it was going to last, I'd be much more panicked, but it started out and it sort of dripped along, and then it became more obvious that it was going to be for the long haul. I have both city properties and country properties, and for the first 2 months, I did nothing but move reservations to next year for the most part, which people did really willingly. It was really impressive how supportive renters were, and how actually positive they felt that you were allowing them to move their bookings. But then it quieted, and then it picked up for the country, not country, but beachside. And we did a very quick shift to marketing locally. In other words, Italians in Italy and the French in France. And being nimble there helped a lot. The Italians aren't generally my market for Italy, but they love the beach. The beach properties filled up until I had no availability. But the city properties like Rome and Paris, I think it will still be a long time before I see any action there. And hopefully by September, when Europeans might be thinking of the cities. I can attract some Europeans for the US, which has often been my major market. US, Australia, Anglo-Saxon countries. I don't know when we'll see that yet, but I think that patience is important, and I'm happy I've had the business in the other kinds of properties.
Yeah, I think patience and resilience are the words of the time, aren't they? Filipa, what about you?
My company, similar to Susan, have the beach rentals and the urban market. And after the first 2 months, when it was almost dealing with cancellations, refunds, move bookings to next year, I also resized the business and start market to the Portuguese market, the beach rentals. And I tried the urban rentals to the digital nomads. And since June, the beach market pick up completely. It's fully booked, almost with the Portuguese. But this is good news. But the urban will take longer. I have some also mid-term rentals, 1 month, 2 months, but that's it.
Thank you. And over this last 3 months, sort of leading a business and leading teams has been really challenging. And Vanessa, I'm going to start with you. What skills have you used? You know, you've got a team of over 100, you know, in more than one country as well. And how, you know, what skills have you really had to kind of draw on over this pandemic in your leadership? And what skills have you had to develop, learn, access, you know, all of those?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think management is something that you learn how to do, right? You're not born a manager. And I've always had some difficulties with that. I'm, you know, rather the creative type that doesn't really respect always timings and things like this. And so this pandemic and working completely remote has been quite a challenge in that respect. So making sure that I support my team, that I'm there for every agile meeting, which we have every day, the stand-up meetings that we do, and really, you know, being better manager, basically, and you know, keeping time, because before in the office we say, okay, you know, I meet you next day, let's talk about it tomorrow, or I grab a coffee with you and let's talk about it. But now we're not able to do this, so really having this, you know, being way more strict about our meeting times and, you know, being together at certain times was quite a challenge for me.
Okay, great. And Emily, what skills, you know, managing your team, the leadership skills, you know, spearheading the business, what skills have you really needed to draw on?
Sorry, I keep forgetting I'm muted. I think you touched on it earlier, Jessica. Resilience was or is key. And sort of to hopefully show my team that no matter what happens, we all have to keep going, particularly a leader. And, you know, when it started and it was obvious it was going to continue, you've got to kind of look forward, pick yourself up and keep going. And being a sole leader, I don't have a business partner, sort of in a reserve. And also I think hugely important to communicate. So my team were obviously not in the office. But I had weekly meetings just to keep them up to date, let them know what was going on if they were furloughed, and to make sure that they were really aware of, you know, what was going on, what my thoughts were, where the bookings were, because inevitably, as you say, no bookings, no revenue, no growth, etc. Also, the other thing is, I'd say to do some of the jobs that they did. I think it's really important as a leader to always be able to do whatever you ask someone else to do. And this has definitely been a time where I've done things that I've asked others to do in the past and I've had to do now. So I think those are the most the biggest ones I can think of at present. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Noelia, you have a different, a whole different kind of way of working. And what skills have you needed to draw on?
Well, for us, the remote working is something very natural for the whole team, so it hasn't been a challenge. But I think these times are still times for empathy and to understand and use the emotional intelligence to keep the motivation up. Because, and not only about the team members, but also partners, property managers, cleaning companies, cleaners, right? And they were just people that wanted to be as busy as possible and not to stop for a minute, to not have time to think about what was going on. But then you have people that was very important and very involved with meditation and eating properly, and that's what they feel like talking in the meetings. So it was a lot about being flexible, schedule-wise and productivity-wise, okay? Because it's so complex, all the emotions that have been going on in the different personalities and nationalities and people working from different countries. So in terms of the new skill, I'm still working on developing my ability to be patient, as Emily was talking about, because in my whole life, for the first time, to sell was not in my hands, right? And my hard work, it was in the hands of a terrible health crisis, and it didn't matter how well or how hard we were working, there was not income, right? So yeah, both things.
Yes. Thank you. You've touched on something quite important in this industry about relationships and about that flexibility with suppliers, partners, and property managers, customers, the whole thing. And I think it's something as an industry as a whole has done very well in that, from what I've seen anyway. A lot of you touched on this when you answered those questions. But, taking care of your staff and maintaining that company culture and continuing to sort of invest in your teams with inevitable furloughs and, the working from home and not being together has been a huge challenge. And Vanessa, do you want to sort of expand on how you've coped with that challenge?
Yeah, sure. So the most emotional time, I think, for the people that had the most difficulties during this time were one particular team in our company, which is the key account management team, and they had to speak to all of the property managers out there and deal with the property managers' emotions about all these cancellations happening, no bookings happening. So they were kind of our frontliners. So what we decided to do as a company is that, in Spain we had, and I think you had in England as well, you had the clapping time, right, at a specific hour. And so we decided to clap for our frontliners every day at 9:15. And the whole company came together, and, it just gave us a boost, like we're in this together. And we really appreciate the work of everyone. And I think in terms of culture, it kind of, in a strange way, even though we're completely remote, it kind of brought us together more for some reason. That we do care. We do care that everybody is okay in the company. And so that was one thing that I want to bring out. But we did tons of things as a company, even though remote. Various meetings with us, the founders, to make sure that everybody is okay and to explain what's going on with the situation, etc. So the company culture kind of cemented in a really nice way, I think, in the last 3 months.
Great, thank you. And Vered, I always think, Guesty has a very good company culture in any kind of experience that I've had, and it's something that a lot of your staff are very proud of and invested in. And how has it been, how has it been for you, making sure that you maintain that kind of close bond with the challenges that we've had?
Yeah, so indeed it was very challenging. I think for all of us as experienced managers that have been learning how to do things in a certain way for many years. For example, I always said there's nothing like a face-to-face. We have several remote offices, and I always made sure to visit the offices. They come to the training in headquarters Tel Aviv, because we all want to meet each other and be friends and be together. And all of a sudden, the world changed, and you have to rethink everything you're doing, which was very interesting. And as Vanessa mentioned, there were also some benefits to it, because think about it. If you have offices in the US, Europe, Australia, and Tel Aviv, in the past, it seems like, remote offices felt remote, and they felt like, oh, something's going on in headquarters and I'm not there. And all of a sudden you are a truly flat organization where everybody's on Zoom, just like us now, right? So you don't feel like an outsider. Everybody feels like they're on par. And we really tried to use that to create more collaborations worldwide. Even in addition to company gatherings on Zoom, we also did fun activities like cocktail making. Everybody's making the same cocktail at a different place, and cooking classes. And we brought in a child psychologist to talk about how to deal with the fact that you're working from home and you have to really balance work and home in a different way than in the past. So really took the employees' welfare to a different virtual direction. And I think it played out quite well. Really helping people still feel connected, feeling that they're together, using video a lot to make sure we see each other and not just write each other. Definitely quite a change. And hopefully I think that it will lead to a positive change where, and we'll probably talk about it some more, where there's more kind of a work-life balance with allowing the flexibility to all our employees to sometimes work from home, even if they do have an office desk.
Thank you. And we will touch on more on that in a minute. Properly, Tammi, how have you properly kind of dealt with this challenge? Because I know that you actually work remote quite a bit yourself, but how have you managed that with the teams properly?
Yeah, I mean, we have probably half of our company works remotely anyway, so we've always had systems set up. So we didn't have the sort of like early implementation or kind of learning phase that other people, it was just like working remotely, and having systems for doing that efficiently has always been, part of our company culture. I think early on, one teacher and Alex's mom are from the northern part of Italy, which is close to where the sort of initial, some of the bad outbreaks. So we had people that we knew, that we kind of knew what that was like on the ground. So early on, we talked to all of our team members about thinking about where they wanted to be quarantined, because we have a team of people that a lot of people have moved away from, where, have moved to a different country from where they originated from. So we really talked to people about, think about where you want to be, because this could be locked down for quite some time. Do you want to be home with family? Do you want to be where you are? So kind of making sure, I think we saw the writing on the wall, and so we're able to kind of lead people both thinking about personally what they needed. And so a lot of people have done that. A lot of people chose to return to their hometown, and they're staying with family. And I think that has been a real peace of mind for people to be able to be with family as opposed to separated and far apart from family. That's been something that's been important. We've done a lot of work to just check in on people personally and to make sure that they're safe, that their families are safe. Tried to provide resources and information sort of early on when we were all figuring out how to deal with keeping ourselves and each other safe. And one of our company values has always been transparency. So making sure that we were on a regular basis letting people know what was going on in the bigger picture, having conversations about what this meant for our customers, having conversations about what this meant for the, for our industry, and how we could step into that fold and really provide, kind of help fill in the gaps of information, because there was so much that was unknown initially. And so we really started with I spent a whole weekend doing research about how long does the virus live on different surfaces and what are disinfection protocols, and I think we were one of the first ones to publish a protocol about disinfection. So that felt good too, to be able to provide tangible, helpful information to our customers. And I think that really anchored a lot of our team members in feeling like, even though they were stuck at home, that they were doing something that was really helpful. I had, several team members comment about that, like, oh, it feels really good to be helping customers and being able to do something right now. So a lot of communication and just checking in with people. And Alex also made himself, he's sort of always had a very open door policy, but really, made sure that any team member that wanted to have a private conversation about the company, where we were headed, that sort of thing, that he was available. So I agree, it's been a more of a dealing thing than anything else.
Yeah, thank you. And one of the kind of upsides or downsides, whichever way you sort of look at it, of the lockdown pandemic has been this blurring of home and work that we've all seen. If you've got children, your children have been at home, if your team members have children. And I think that's, potentially got huge changes for, women's leadership going forwards. Maybe I just speak for myself, but we often have to pretend we don't have children almost, and now it's almost cool to have a toddler running around in the background of a, it's on the BBC now, it made, Twitter trends and stuff like that. But in terms of that work-life balance, are you planning on, and maybe I'll start with you, Vered, because you actually did touch on it, but are you planning to allow more flexibility, more family-friendly, home-friendly work-life balance incorporating into your employees?
So we definitely are. We ran a survey with our employees and asked them about their preferences. We wanted to be very transparent. We understand the world is changing. And also, I recall in the past that when employees asked to work from home before the pandemic, you would say, well, you'll probably not be as productive from home. And now we've been doing this for 3 months, and employees are very productive. Some are even more productive. So we ran a survey, and of all our employees, the percentage of employees that said that they want to work full-time in the office was, drumroll, 3%. Only 3% want to go to full-time in the office, okay? Of course, the majority doesn't want to work just from home. They want to have the option. They want to have the flexibility about, 2 days, 3 days, and that's the approach we're going to take, to give some flexible time, but still keep the office environment. Know that for certain meetings, for when your team needs you, you will be in the office, but we do plan to have the flexibility and trying to enjoy both the best worlds in a way, right? Enjoy the office vibes and the atmosphere and the culture cultivation in the office, but also allow people to have the flexibility to work in the way that suits them.
That's great. And I think it's trusting and empowering your team to make the right choices is important. And Vanessa, what about at Rentals United? Yeah. More plans for flexible work?
Nothing to add. It's exactly the same plan as Vered. Same thing. Okay. We asked, they want to be flexible, we're flexible. Yeah.
Wonderful. Great. And Emily, what about you? Slightly different, different business organization?
Yeah, slightly different in the sense that, so there's quite a lot of overlap and communication with the team members on a kind of, very, very often, sometimes if it's super busy. But not only that, I think the biggest difference is the number of employees. So both Vanessa and Guesty are huge, much bigger companies. And so I still want to maintain that kind of team culture, if you like, with people in the office. But I definitely agree with the I'm definitely open to working from home, having that flexibility, feeling empowered, and trusting the employees. I would say that we have an amazing office, and it's quite close to everyone's home, but I'm sure that they will want to work from home, and that's definitely something that we will be doing going forward.
Great, thank you, Emily. And earlier you touched on how you've used the 3 months to, look at some of your processes, the software you're using, different operational aspects of the business. Is there what have been your sort of biggest learning since the end of March? And what are you going to be doing anything fundamentally different going forwards that you may not have thought about, in February?
So really interesting question. An advisor once said to me, slow down to speed up. And when I set up the company 4 years ago, we grew kind of 3-digit percentage. Sorry, what I mean by that, over 100% year on year. So we grew very quickly, and it was totally organic and word of mouth. And our growth was huge. And I think for me personally, I was just very, I didn't slow down to look around me and see what was happening and take everything on board and take a step back. It was just it's a very, as I'm sure everyone agrees, it's a very, very fast-paced industry. And so the idea of slowing down to speed up, I had to, because of the whole nature of the challenge, made everything slow down. The other thing I think is, you always hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And actually, I had planned for the worst since I started. I always had in the back of my mind, what if? And I didn't ever think that something like this would happen. I don't know what, I just planned whereby there would be no bookings for a significant amount of time, but never envisaged it being, COVID or a similar thing. I actually thought it would be more sort of a terrorist thing or something like that. And so I think, although I think it's shown me that the worst can happen, and that it's really important to survive, basically, to go through it and come out the other end, which we have done and we're able to do. Obviously from a financial point of view, make sure that you've got enough cash flow for something like this happening, and particularly if you don't have investment, which I don't. I think that's just being aware that things are super uncertain, and not being able to predict what's going to happen. So plan for kind of plan A and plan B is basically what I've done in the last 3 months.
Thank you. And Filipa, have you had a chance to review, and what would be your biggest learnings? Have you changed anything fundamental in your strategy and or operations that maybe you would never have thought of?
I think it's even more important, the quality of the portfolio of the rentals that you manage when you manage properties, because in difficult times, if you have a good property, and that property will be the first to be booked, so that can make the difference between your survival or you're not, or you don't survive. Also, I saw that having properties, different types of properties, in my case beach and urban, make also the difference to help me passing this time. If you would ask me a year ago, I was considering leaving the beach rentals and only be with the urban market. But now I don't really think that way. I think having a mixture of properties and not having all properties in boarding, it's better to have fewer properties but quality properties than having a ton of properties but not so good. This is my takeaway.
That's a really good takeaway. And Susan, what about you? What's been your biggest learning? Anything you're going to be doing differently, fundamentally?
There we go. I think that we learned, well, I think that we reminded ourselves of one of our core values, and that's to keep a diverse market, but of properties, a diverse portfolio with both city and country. But it also reminded us the importance of a diverse marketing mix towards renters. And I think I touched on that before. But so we worked on adding marketing materials in other languages and focusing ways to target these new audiences that we were looking for domestically. I changed our marketing mix, which we was contracted outside, probably one of our biggest expenses. And I took the opportunity where we didn't have the work of dealing with rentals or very many requests coming in, to teach ourselves to do some of that. And it was a growing experience for the team and me. And it has been paying off. We have been dealing with the more local markets, and they've been booking, and we'll certainly stick with that, as well as relying on our more traditional markets that we're used to, and which actually, interestingly enough, a lot of our property owners have chosen us because they see me as an Anglo-Saxon bringing in that market, which is the market they're after. But they too now realize how important the homegrown markets are, and they expect different things than Americans in a different way. So we've been dealing with that.
Yes, I'm sure that can be quite challenging. Cleaning hygiene and raising consistent standards has been a big topic over the last few months, even before COVID, but since it's really, been fast tracked. And this is a question for both Tammi and Noelia. You're both, very involved in cleaning. And is there anything that has changed in terms of what property managers are asking, wanting from you? What's kind of changed in terms also maybe what you're offering? And could you talk about that? And Tammi, do you want to make a start?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for us, it's been a bit of an upside because there's more attention on the issue than there used to be. This was a drum that we used to beat often, that we need standards and we need processes and protocols and that sort of thing. And so this has certainly brought people's attention to it in a good way, and people recognizing the need to have a protocol in place and a system that someone can follow a protocol while they're at the property, a way to be able to verify that that was done and certify that a cleaning happened and that no steps were missed. We've been tracking the number of entities that have published protocols in the last 2 or 3 months, and it's over 100, and that's listing platforms and tourism associations, property managers. So everyone is certainly, there's attention on it. And I think there's an opportunity for our industry at this time, because I think in the past, a traveler would typically prefer a vacation rental, but we didn't have, we have a collective reputation. We have individual hosts up to professional property managers, and our collective reputation wasn't a very in quality. So I think this is a real opportunity for us. A vacation rental provides privacy, and it gets people away from shared spaces that hotels have. So as long as we can sort of up our game in terms of consistency, I think this is going to be a good moment for our industry. So certainly we've been helping customers implement protocols, and sometimes those are protocols that are externally, that come externally now. So it could be a tourism association from their area, the Airbnb enhanced cleaning initiative, etc. So we've been doing a lot of work to help people put those processes in place.
Great. And Noelia, what's your take?
Well, I think it has not been important to guarantee professional cleanliness in private accommodation. On the other hand, due to the layoffs, many property managers are finally outsourcing their cleaning services to certified companies like the ones we have been selecting and onboarding for the last 5 years. Funny thing, I've been a speaker in more than 25 webinars, something like that, in the last month. Has been pretty crazy, and most of them were yeah, I mean, with platforms or with PMS. But surprisingly, even our property managers have been asking to me to talk with the property owners in order to tell them, hey, your guests have been always safe here, and will feel safe in the post-COVID world because we know what we are doing. Also, I can see more direct bookings, and it seems guests feel better by having like a flowing conversation with the property managers, that they choose not to use a third party for that. Saying that, Tammi, I mean, we have been reading all these official protocols and so on, but to be honest, for a professional cleaning companies, those new protocols are not new at all. They are actually quite basic. And we have to think that there were germs and viruses and bacteria before coronavirus, and professional cleaning companies always took care of them. And the training given to the staff has been always quite focused on reducing the risk of getting someone sick in the property, and because that's what they are hired for. I think that we work with a lot of cleaning companies that have been working for hotels for 25 years. So yeah, imagine in terms of reputation. Now, we have been also involved in several projects with clients that were hosting medical professionals. I believe Emily has been as well involved with this. And we were asked for decontamination services, and that's something we were not offering before. And what had changed a little bit, the procedures to protect the cleaners. Yeah, I mean, they were already having training in terms of security, how to deal with the chemicals and so on, and even to protect themselves. But now it's like more detail about that. And I'm glad about this, and I'm glad that now people is more familiar with the amazing job they do and how relevant are they for our industry and for the safety.
Thank you. We've actually had a question from Richard Vorton around this, and I'm just going to read it out, and if someone wants to answer it. It's, does the panel see visible certification online becoming compulsory for the hygiene, licensing, gas, electric, insurances, things? Does anyone want to answer that? Maybe one of the property managers? Tammi, got an answer?
Well,
do you see it being compulsory?
Yeah, I think it's something that guests will, I think it's part of what's going to restore peace of mind. I just booked a place. I'm in a vacation rental right now, and you know, the guest signed on to the enhanced cleaning protocol. It's not Airbnb, it's a different platform, but how do I know that that was actually followed? You know, some of those protocols are quite extensive, and you know, there are a lot of individual, you know, owners who are managing their own properties, and new property management companies. And so I think that's going to be part of what's going to restore confidence. I think there's also the possibility of regulations. So that might be externally enforced. So I think a certification for me as a guest would give me peace of mind knowing that a process was followed and verified and certified.
Okay, thank you. Another big topic that we've been hearing over the last 3 months, or certainly from some sectors of the industry, is talk of direct bookings. You know, a lot of property managers have obviously felt very vulnerable in their distribution strategy, or, you know, lack of distribution strategy at the moment. and that reliance on OTAs and it just having more power over where bookings are coming from. And, you know, there has been in certain sectors, you know, quite a lot of talk that that might be the answer. Vanessa, is this a realistic strategy for property managers to pursue, or is it part of a mixed bag? What's your thought here on direct bookings?
I think, you know, the frustration that property managers have had recently, or have had for years really, was OTAs squeezing their commissions. I think it's mainly because they're focusing on too few OTAs. There are tons of OTAs out there, from, you know, very niche OTAs, sport tourism, digital nomads, midterm OTAs. I mean, there's all sorts of channels that you can address that are cheaper than the usual ones that you'd be on. So usually when we start working with property managers, they're on 2-3 websites. And of course, if you're, you know, just relying on those 2-3, then I can imagine that this last period must have been, you know, very, very difficult, right? And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a book direct strategy. However, I can tell you, being a digital marketeer, that a book direct strategy is very complicated. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and potentially a lot of money. So, you know, I think I'm all for hearing, you know, the other specialists out there. And I think if you want a book direct strategy, you should definitely speak to specialists. Don't try and do this by yourself. Really consider the cost. Is the cost actually less than paying an OTA? You know, get your website really, really, really well done. Your checkout must be great. I mean, there's tons of things to consider if you're going to do this seriously. And also, it's not a short-term plan. It is a very long-term plan. Well, on the other end, OTAs, you know, bring your bookings that way. But, you know, when it comes to OTAs, I was just, you know, I really, my best advice is, you know, go for 20 OTAs. Don't go for 3 or 4, go for 20. And those, obviously not all of them are going to bring you the same amount of bookings, but you will have that mix, that healthy mix of, you know, different commissions, different lengths of stays, different types of clients, etc. Also urban leisure. I mean, there's tons of things to look at when we talk about distribution, but, you know, book direct, definitely one of them. With caution.
Thanks, Vanessa. And Vered, you've got, you know, tons and tons of property managers use Guesty. Are you hearing that they want to do more direct bookings now? Is this something that is?
Yeah, well, first, I think the key word, and Vanessa mentioned it, is diversity. Okay, don't count on 1, don't count on 2. Diversify your channels, and not just to OTAs, in my mind. We also allow our customers to generate a direct booking site on Guesty, and we have a lot of them taking advantage of that. And no, it will not replace OTAs if you don't spend dollars on Google and Facebook, and which of course doesn't make any sense. But you can generate coupons for repeat guests, and, you know, try to at least get something back. Or especially now, when travel has become much more domestic due to COVID-19, try to think of, you know, social channels and communities, and how do you get more local travelers, right? What's going on around your neighborhood? Who should you contact? Who can you collaborate with? Because, I don't know, maybe there's a hospital nearby and you want to have some kind of collaboration for front-end line workers and hospital workers. Maybe you have, I don't know, some kind of an educational facility around you. It could be instances where looking around your community would make sense. And for that matter, I recommend having a direct booking engine, at least as a backup plan, as, you know, even if it brings you 10% of your revenue, it's still something that you saved and a way to reach new audiences. The key is really, at this time, reaching new audiences that you weren't looking for in the past when you had tons of international travel.
And also, I think it's that, you know, direct booking makes sense when it's their second, third, fourth visit with you, you know, the repeat bookings.
Yeah.
Our property managers, are you planning to do more direct bookings going forward? Less reliance on OTAs, less reliance on third-party channels to bring you the bookings? Susan, do you want to tell us? Yeah.
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, go on, Filipa. Yeah. Well, you both. You go first.
Okay. I always try to be everywhere on all OTAs, but always had my own website. And the same happened with the same thing happened with the leisure and urban properties that helped me during this time. Having my properties listed on the big OTAs and on smaller niche websites and on my website helped me to deal with different cancellation policies and different approaches by the OTAs. And this helped me, okay, Airbnb canceled and refund all the Airbnb bookings, but they were not all my bookings. I also had direct bookings. I also had bookings from VRBO, from Booking.com, from other channels. This helped me. And when I market the urban properties to digital nomads, I try other OTAs, different ones. So they are for bigger stays, so they have different cancellation different cancellation policies and different types of guests. And this is good. Also, with all the cancellations that I had, I sent an email to all the guests, even if they were from Airbnb, Booking.com. I sent them an email saying I understand they were canceling, but telling that I have a local business and sending them my direct website. I was on a tough moment. If they could refer to their friends or they book with me next time, that would be great. I would really appreciate it. And lots of them reply, and they were super nice and said, of course, let me just pass over this. And I have an email that marks when guests open. And I've seen that guests open this email like 4 times on the past 3 months. So this means something. And it didn't really cost me anything. I just send an email to the guests asking, can you please rebook again directly? And I think this is a good approach.
Great, thank you. And Susan, what about you and Commendable?
I think that the more diverse your portfolio is, as far as in locations and kinds of properties, the harder it is to create a book direct business, because you need too many diverse marketing channels. And so I think that though Booking Direct is wonderful, and I did some of the same things as Filipa with the same responses, that you have to be where people search first, and generally they go to the big OTAs to have a look around, and if they spot you and catch you, they'll either try and find you directly, which I always try and make it easy to do without actually doing it, or they book direct because they book directly on the OTA because that's where they have talked themselves into feeling that they're the more comfortable. But you have to be where the lookers are looking. So I'm definitely not giving up on OTAs. I can tear my hair out at them sometimes and hate them, but I'm still using them.
Yeah, and actually you do have to spend on marketing, it's just a fact, isn't it? Yeah. This has been fantastic, everyone. We're actually coming up to time, but before we finish, I want to see if any of you, and I really hope a few of you will jump in here. Obviously it's, predicting anything today, you would be probably pretty foolhardy to predict anything this year, but what do you see in store for the short-term rental industry? Do you think, we've got a strong future ahead of us? Is it short-term rentals still a really good bet? Is it still a good business to be in? Anyone want to kind of say, where do you sort of see the next 6, 12, 24 months of the future of the industry? Vanessa.
I think it's a great business to be in. It's a wonderful business to be in, both from the tech side and from the rental side, from the property management side. And as Emily said, though, the trick is no debt. Don't make debts. Try and be sustainable from now on, at least. Make your worst case scenario your best case scenario. Be ready just in case. But that's it. That's the trick. And I think the ones that failed are the ones that had too many debts. And So stay strong, but no debt. That would be my advice.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Totally agree.
Emily?
Yeah, I agree with Vanessa. I'm all about optimism in the future, and both on the tech side and the management side. On the tech side, I just have seen in the last 4 years since I started, just the most extraordinary amount of changes and growth of the tech industry. I describe myself as a slight tech tard, so it's quite ironic that I'm in this industry, but I find it fascinating, the growth and where it's gone to. I think it's got massive, still got huge potential. In terms of travel, I just think everyone is always going to travel. And I actually think my personal view on if I could be slightly, if I could speak about hotels versus short-term rentals, I think a lot of people are now those who were in hotels, who stayed in hotels, are likely to go to short-term rentals for obvious reasons, not buying into people, having cleaners as much as they want, having their own space, etc., etc. From my particular standpoint, in terms of sort of luxury and high end, I always think that's going to be something that people are drawn to for whatever reason, be it family travel, business travel, tourism. I feel really confident. I think it just comes back to resilience and patience again, and dare I say it, without repeating the whole, making sure you've got enough finances to ride any storm that may appear. So yeah, I'm positive about the future.
Great. Anyone else?
I think in the long run, this is going to make our industry stronger. I think it's going to increase the level of quality. And I think we have a product that travelers are going to want more so than a hotel. And people will always travel. Some of the travel that I've seen has been people coming to visit family. And so it's longer stays. They'll come to do a quarantine, and then they'll spend time with a new grandbaby or a family member that is needing some help. So people will always travel. And I think this is going to help raise the quality of our industry, and I think we'll come out ahead.
Great. And Vered?
Yeah, I think that indeed this turmoil actually helped our industry come together. I see a lot of support within the industry between the different tech companies and the property managers and everyone around the ecosystem. I think it's clear that travel is here to stay. People will not stop traveling, and they'll find a way. And I do think that this really allowed us to take a huge leap vis-a-vis the hotel industry, where it's probably pretty clear that if you need to stay somewhere at this time, you'll prefer a short-term rental, or it's isolated and clean and you have your own kitchen rather than a hotel. So I think that will actually help us close the gap versus the hotel industry and make those two solutions really comparable.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, I'm in a fairly unique position that I speak to all sorts of different people in the industry, property managers and also providers. And, the overarching is that there's a lot of confidence, justified confidence in this industry and optimism for the future. And I think one of the strengths of this industry is that it is very dynamic, and that's come out quite a lot in this last 3 months. A lot of ability to be flexible, change, work together, collaboration, partnerships. We've seen a lot of it. This has been really fantastic, everyone. Thank you so much, and just really great. And I know all of you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all again in the flesh at a proper conference, or at the next conference that we have. And just thank you so much for your time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you, girls.
Jessica.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody, and thanks Jessica. Thanks to all of our panelists for all that they've done. As you leave today's webinar, there's going to be a survey that will pop up just to kind of give any sort of feedback and thoughts on your experience with today and this morning, or whatever time zone you are currently in. I wish everybody here on this panel and everybody who's attended a wonderful rest of their week, to stay safe out there. And thank you so much again, everybody on this panel. Have a wonderful day.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.